What you're about to witness will shake you to your core and restore your faith in justice all at once. Picture this: a distinguished white judge, robes flowing, pointing an accusatory finger at an elderly black man in a worn military jacket. The gavel crashes down with thunderous authority. "Sir, you will remove that unauthorized military decoration immediately or face contempt of court." The old man's weathered hands tremble as he touches the metal pin to his chest, a bronze star that caught the courtroom's attention. The judge's face reddens with indignation. "Furthermore, you're fined $500 for disrupting these proceedings with your inappropriate display." But freeze this moment. Because what Judge Patricia Whitman doesn't know is that she's about to make the biggest mistake of her career. The man standing before her isn't just any veteran, he's about to turn this entire courtroom upside down. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to where this incredible story began. Before we dive into the story, tell us, what city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love hearing from our global family. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep this storytelling journey alive. Your support truly keeps us going. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Let's continue. Colonel Samuel Washington, though today he looks nothing like the decorated military officer he truly is. At 72, Sam cuts a humble figure in his faded jeans and worn combat boots. His graying beard and weathered hands tell stories of decades of service, but his most prized possession is the Bronze Star he earned in Vietnam, a medal he wears not for show, but for remembrance. What the world doesn't know is that Sam is also Dr. Samuel Washington, one of the country's most respected military lawyers. After serving 30 years in the Army, he earned his law degree and spent another 20 years defending veterans' rights. He's argued cases before the Supreme Court, written military law textbooks, and mentored hundreds of young lawyers. The Bronze Star on his chest tells a story that haunts him still. November 15, 1968, near Khe Sanh. Sam was a young lieutenant when his unit came under heavy fire. 8 soldiers were trapped in a burning armored vehicle. While enemy bullets whistled overhead, Sam crawled through the mud 3 times, pulling out each wounded soldier. The last man he saved was Private Tommy Rodriguez, just 19 years old, who would later become Sam's lifelong friend and eventually Mrs. Martinez's late husband. But Sam never forgot his roots. Born in poverty in rural Mississippi, he remembers what it felt like to be invisible, to be judged by his appearance rather than his character. His mother, Daisy Washington, cleaned houses for wealthy white families. His father, Moses Washington, worked double shifts at the lumber mill. They saved every penny to send Sam to college, dreams bigger than their circumstances. "Son," his father told him on his 18th birthday, "education is the one thing they can't take from you. But never forget where you came from, and never let success make you forget those still fighting for their chance." That's why Sam chooses to dress simply, drive an old pickup truck, and live modestly despite his success. He could afford expensive suits and luxury cars, but he remembers the boy who went to school with holes in his shoes. Today, Sam is at the courthouse as a favor to his neighbor, Mrs. Rosa Martinez, an elderly widow fighting an eviction notice. Rosa is the widow of his old Army buddy Tommy. When Tommy died of cancer 2 years ago, Sam promised to look after Rosa. She's 68, works part-time as a seamstress, and has lived in the same small apartment for 15 years. Her landlord wants to evict her to renovate and triple the rent. Sam has agreed to represent her pro bono, something he does regularly for those who can't afford legal help. His home office is filled with case files of veterans, elderly tenants, and immigrants fighting for their rights. He's never lost a pro bono case. Now meet Judge Patricia Whitman, 15 years on the bench and known for running a tight courtroom. She prides herself on order and respect, but her definition of both is narrow. Patricia comes from old money. Her grandfather was a federal judge, her father a Supreme Court clerk. She was appointed to her position through family connections rather than merit alone. Patricia's corner office overlooks the city's most expensive district. Her law degree from Harvard hangs prominently, though she graduated in the bottom third of her class. She drives a Mercedes, lives in a gated community, and has never wanted for anything in her 52 years of life. Her biggest weakness? She judges people by their appearance, and assumes respect can only come from those who look like they belong in her world. Patricia has always been uncomfortable around veterans, especially older ones. She sees their casual dress and military decorations as attempts to gain sympathy rather than earn honors. In her mind, real heroes don't need to advertise their service. What Patricia doesn't know is that her own privileged position was built on sacrifices made by men like Sam Washington. Her grandfather's judicial appointment came after he served as a military prosecutor, and her family's wealth originated from defense contracts during World War II. But she's never connected her comfort to other service. The Riverside County Courthouse buzzes with typical Monday morning activity. Lawyers in expensive suits hurry past, their leather briefcases clicking against polished marble floors. The building itself intimidates soaring columns, stern portraits of judges past, and an atmosphere that whispers, "Money talks." Built in 1952, the courthouse was designed to impress. 30-foot ceilings, imported marble, and stained glass windows depicting the scales of justice. But for all its grandeur, it's also a place where real people's lives hang in the balance. Sam enters through the main doors at 8:30 a.m., 30 minutes before his scheduled hearing. He's always early, a habit from his military days. His presence immediately draws attention. His bronze star catches the morning light streaming through tall windows. He's not trying to make a statement. He simply wears it every day to honor his fallen brothers who never made it home. The morning crowd is typical: young public defenders juggling multiple cases, seasoned prosecutors in tailored suits, and anxious defendants with their families. Sam's appearance stands out. While everyone else is dressed for success, he looks like someone who might be here for a traffic violation. At the security checkpoint, the guard does a double take. Officer Marcus Johnson, a veteran himself, recognizes the Bronze Star but can't reconcile it with Sam's humble appearance. "Sir, you sure you're in the right place? The VA office is across town." Sam's response is gentle but firm. "I'm here for the 9 a.m. docket in Judge Whitman's courtroom, representing Mrs. Rosa Martinez." Officer Johnson exchanges glances with his partner. "You're a lawyer? You got ID for that?" Sam produces his bar card, a well-worn piece of plastic that's seen better days. The photo shows him 20 years younger, but the name is clear: Samuel Washington, attorney at law. License number 47891, admitted to practice in 1985. But the damage is done. Whispers follow him down the hallway. "Who does he think he is? Look at him, playing dress-up soldier. Must be one of those storefront lawyers." A young prosecutor, fresh out of law school, nudges her colleague. "Is that guy really a lawyer? He looks like he's homeless." An older defense attorney, who's been practicing for 30 years, shakes his head. "I've never seen him before. Probably some legal aid volunteer." Sam hears it all but says nothing. He's learned that actions speak louder than words, and he'll let his work in the courtroom do the talking. In the courtroom, Sam takes his place at the defendant's table. The furniture is imposing: heavy oak tables, high-backed chairs, everything designed to remind people of the law's authority. Mrs. Martinez sits beside him, nervous but grateful. She's wearing her best dress, a simple blue outfit she's owned for 10 years. Her hands shake as she clutches a worn prayer book. "Mr. Sam?" she whispers in accented English. "Are you sure we can win? That lawyer looks very expensive." Sam squeezes her hand gently. "Rosa, I've been fighting for people like us my whole life. Trust me." The opposing counsel, a sharp-dressed attorney from the prestigious firm of Blackstone, Morrison and Associates, openly scoffs at Sam's appearance. Attorney James Morrison III represents the landlord, Riverside Properties LLC. He's wearing a $3,000 suit, Italian leather shoes, and a Rolex that costs more than Rosa's annual income. "Your Honor," Morrison whispers to his young associate, "this should be over quickly. Look at her representation. Probably some volunteer from the senior center." Morrison comes from the same social circles as Judge Whitman. They attended the same country club events, their children went to the same private schools. He's confident this will be a quick victory. Judge Whitman enters at exactly 9 a.m., and the courtroom rises. Her black robes flow dramatically as she takes her seat behind the imposing bench. Her eyes immediately find Sam, and her expression hardens. She's seen his type before, or so she thinks. Aging veterans trying to play lawyer, using their military service as a crutch. "Be seated," she commands. "Call the first case. Martinez versus Riverside Properties, Your Honor," announces the court clerk. "Counsel, approach the bench," she commands before the proceedings even begin. The plaintiff's attorney strides forward confidently. Morrison's $300 haircut and perfect posture scream success. Sam approaches calmly, his military bearing evident in his straight posture and respectful demeanor, but his simple clothes and weathered appearance create a stark contrast. "Mr. Judge Whitman peers over her glasses at Sam. "Colonel Dr. Samuel Washington, Your Honor. Representing Mrs. Martinez." "Colonel?" Her voice drips with skepticism. "And I suppose that medal you're wearing is supposed to impress this court?" The bronze star catches the light as Sam stands perfectly still. "Your Honor, I wear this medal every day to honor those who didn't return. It's not meant to impress anyone. Well, it's inappropriate for my courtroom. Military decorations have no place in civilian proceedings. You will remove it immediately." Morrison smirks, sensing an easy victory. He's never seen Judge Whitman dress down opposing counsel so quickly. "Your Honor, with respect, I have the right to. You have the right to follow my rules or find yourself in contempt. Remove it. Now." The courtroom falls silent. Even the court reporter stops typing. The bailiff, a former Marine named Sergeant First Class Davis, shifts uncomfortably. He recognizes the bronze star and knows what it represents. Sam's jaw tightens, but his voice remains controlled. "Your Honor, this medal was earned in combat. I respectfully decline to remove it." Judge Whitman's face flushes red. "Mr. Washington, I will not tolerate defiance in my courtroom. You're clearly out of your depth here. Perhaps you should consider referring this case to a more experienced attorney." The insult hangs in the air like smoke. Several lawyers in the gallery exchange glances. Even Morrison looks surprised by the judge's hostility. Sam's eyes flash, but he maintains his composure. "Your Honor, I've been practicing law for over 20 years. I'm fully qualified to represent my client." 20 years? Where? The military courthouse. This is real law, Mr. Washington. This is where real lawyers practice. The courtroom audience shifts uncomfortably. Mrs. Martinez doesn't understand all the legal terminology, but she recognizes the tone of disrespect. Her eyes fill with tears as she realizes her lawyer is being humiliated. "Return to your tables," Judge Whitman snaps. "Let's get this charade over with." Back at his table, Sam opens his briefcase, a battered leather case that's been with him since law school. Inside are meticulously organized files, legal briefs that would impress any attorney, and a worn copy of the Constitution. His preparation is thorough, his arguments sound, but Judge Whitman has already made up her mind. "Mr. Morrison," she says, "please proceed with your opening statement." Morrison stands, adjusting his silk tie. "Your Honor, this is a simple matter of contract law. Mrs. Martinez signed a lease agreement with specific terms. She has violated those terms by subletting part of her apartment without permission. My client seeks immediate eviction and damages." It's a confident opening, but it contains a critical error, one that Sam immediately recognizes. There is no subletting. Rosa's adult son occasionally stays with her when he's in town for medical appointments, something clearly allowed under the lease's family visitation clause. "Mr. Washington," Judge Whitman says coldly, "your opening." Sam stands, his military bearing unmistakable despite his simple clothes. "Your Honor, Mrs. Martinez has been a model tenant for 15 years. She has never missed a rent payment, never violated any lease terms, and—" "Get to the point, Mr. Washington. We don't have all day for your war stories." The insult is deliberate, designed to rattle him. But Sam has faced enemy fire. He can handle a biased judge. "Your Honor, the alleged subletting never occurred. Mrs. Martinez's son visits occasionally for medical treatment. This is clearly permitted under Section 12.3 of the lease agreement. Alleged? Judge Whitman's voice rises. Are you calling Mr. Morrison a liar? I'm stating facts based on evidence, Your Honor. Morrison stands. Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is testifying. It's a bogus objection. Sam was clearly stating his client's position. But Judge Whitman nods. Sustained. Mr. Washington, stick to legal arguments, not stories. The proceedings begin in earnest, but Judge Whitman's bias is evident from the start. She interrupts Sam's opening statement 3 times, allows Morrison to make objections she should have overruled, and questions every piece of evidence Sam presents. Your Honor, Sam says, presenting a key document. This lease agreement clearly shows. Approach the bench, she snaps. At the bench, Judge Whitman leans forward, her voice low but venomous. Mr. Washington, are you trying to waste this court's time with amateur hour theatrics? This document is inadmissible hearsay. Your Honor, it's an authenticated contract signed by both parties. It's not hearsay, it's... Don't lecture me on evidence law. I've been a judge longer than you've been pretending to be a lawyer. Morrison watches from his table, increasingly uncomfortable. He may want to win, but he's witnessing something that crosses the line from zealous judging to outright bias. The courtroom audience shifts uncomfortably. Even the court reporter looks concerned. Mrs. Martinez begins to panic, thinking her case is lost. She whispers to Sam in Spanish, ¿Está bien, Señor Sam? Sam responds softly, Sí, Rosa. Todo estará bien. Yes, Rosa. Everything will be fine. But Sam doesn't break. Instead, he does something unexpected. He begins to cite case law from memory, his voice growing stronger with each citation. Your Honor, under Federal Rules of Evidence 901, authentication can be established through witness testimony, and I quote Daubert v. Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals, 509 U.S. 579, which established that trial judges serve as gatekeepers for scientific evidence. The citations flow like water. Not just case names, but specific page numbers, exact quotes, contextual applications. Morrison's eyebrows raise. This isn't some amateur reading from notes. This is someone with encyclopedic knowledge of the law. Judge Whitman's eyes narrow. Stop showing off, Mr. Washington. Your memorized textbook passages don't impress me. These aren't memorized passages, Your Honor. These are the foundations of law I've been practicing and teaching for decades. Teaching? You? Where exactly do you claim to teach law? The courtroom falls silent. Even the bailiff stops shuffling papers. Georgetown University Law Center, Your Honor. I'm a professor emeritus specializing in military and constitutional law. The courtroom erupts in whispers. Morrison's confident expression falters. The court reporter looks up from her machine. Even Judge Whitman seems momentarily stunned. But she recovers quickly, her bias overriding her shock. Even if that's true, your inappropriate attire and that ridiculous medal display show a lack of respect for this court. I'm fining you $500 for contempt and ordering you to remove that medal immediately or face arrest. The fine is excessive, vindictive, and legally questionable. Several attorneys in the gallery recognize it as judicial misconduct. Sam's voice grows quiet, but it carries across the silent courtroom. Your Honor, I've served this country for 50 years, first as a soldier, then as a lawyer. I've defended the Constitution you've sworn to uphold. I will not remove this medal. Bailiff! Judge Whitman's voice cracks with rage. Arrest this man for contempt of court. Sergeant Davis, the bailiff, hesitates. He knows contempt law, and this doesn't qualify. But he also knows he can't directly challenge a judge's order. Your Honor, he says carefully, perhaps we should. Now, Sergeant! Arrest him now! Morrison finally stands. Your Honor, if I may, this seems... Sit down, Mr. Morrison! This doesn't concern you. But Morrison doesn't sit. For the first time in his privileged life, he's witnessing real injustice, and his conscience won't let him ignore it. Your Honor, with respect, I don't believe contempt is appropriate here. Mr. Washington hasn't disrupted the proceedings or shown disrespect to the court. Judge Whitman's face turns purple with rage. How dare you! Both of you are in contempt. Bailiff, arrest them both. Now the courtroom erupts. Lawyers stand, voices raise, and even the court reporter looks ready to bolt. This has gone from a simple eviction hearing to a constitutional crisis. As Sergeant Davis approaches reluctantly, Sam reaches into his jacket pocket. The courtroom tenses. Everyone knows stories of courthouse violence. But Sam simply pulls out his phone. Before you do that, Your Honor, I'd like to make one phone call. You're not being arrested for a crime, Mr. Washington. You don't get a phone call. Actually, I think I do. Sam's entire demeanor changes. The humble veteran disappears, replaced by someone with unmistakable authority. His voice deepens, his posture straightens even more, and suddenly everyone in the room realizes they're looking at someone far more important than they realized. Your Honor, I'm not just Colonel Washington. I'm not just Dr. Washington. I'm Justice Samuel Washington, retired Associate Justice of the Military Court of Appeals. The courtroom explodes. Morrison drops his briefcase, sending papers scattering across the floor. The court reporter's fingers freeze over her keys. Even Sergeant Davis stops mid-step, his hand moving reflexively to salute before he catches himself. Furthermore, Sam continues, his voice now carrying the weight of absolute authority. I currently serve on the State Bar Disciplinary Committee, and I'm a member of the Judicial Conduct Review Board. Judge Whitman's face goes white. The Judicial Conduct Review Board, the organization that investigates judicial misconduct and can recommend removal from the bench. That's impossible. You can't be. Sam speed dials a number he knows by heart. Chief Justice Morrison? It's Sam Washington. Yes, I'm fine. I'm actually in a courtroom right now where I'm being held in contempt for wearing my Bronze Star. What? Yes, that Bronze Star. The one I received for saving 8 soldiers under enemy fire in Vietnam. He puts the phone on speaker. The voice that emerges is unmistakably that of the state's Supreme Court Chief Justice and Morrison's uncle. Judge Whitman? This is Chief Justice Morrison. Justice Washington is one of the most respected legal minds in our state. He's argued before the Supreme Court 17 times and has never lost a case. You will treat him with the respect he deserves. The silence in the courtroom is deafening. Judge Whitman's hands shake as she realizes the magnitude of her mistake. Morrison stares at his phone, realizing he's just witnessed his uncle defend the man he was trying to evict, an elderly widow. Moreover, Sam continues, Mrs. Martinez's case should have been dismissed 20 minutes ago. The eviction notice was improperly served, the landlord failed to follow proper procedures under the Residential Tenancy Act, and the lease clearly states she has the right to remain in her home with family visitation privileges. Any first-year law student would see this. He's right, and everyone in the room knows it. Morrison's case was always weak, but he was counting on intimidating an inexperienced lawyer and a biased judge. He never expected to face one of the most accomplished jurists in the state. Furthermore, Sam's voice grows stern. I've been documenting every word of these proceedings. Judge Whitman, your conduct today violates at least 6 canons of judicial ethics. You've shown bias, made discriminatory remarks, issued unlawful contempt citations, and violated due process rights. Judge Whitman realizes her career is over. 15 years on the bench, destroyed in 30 minutes by her own prejudice. The transformation is complete. Judge Whitman, moments ago the supreme authority in her courtroom, now looks like a child caught cheating on a test. Justice Washington, she stammers. I didn't know. I was just trying to maintain order. Your Honor, you weren't maintaining order. You were maintaining prejudice. You saw an elderly black man in casual clothes and assumed he was incompetent. You saw a Bronze Star and called it inappropriate. You saw decades of military service and called it playing dress-up. The words hit like hammer blows. Every lawyer in the courtroom knows they're witnessing judicial history, the complete destruction of a judge's career and reputation. Morrison begins packing his briefcase, knowing his case is over. But Sam isn't finished with him either. "Mr. Morrison, your client's eviction notice was served improperly. Under California Civil Code Section 1946, tenants must receive 30 days' notice for month-to-month tenancies. Mrs. Martinez received 15 days. Your entire case is procedurally defective." Morrison nods miserably. I understand, Justice Washington. I'll advise my client to withdraw the eviction notice. You'll do more than that. You'll ensure Mrs. Martinez receives compensation for her legal fees, emotional distress, and the violation of her tenant rights. I suggest $10,000 as a starting point. It's not a suggestion. It's a command from someone with the authority to make Morrison's legal career very difficult if he refuses. Your Honor, Sam continues, addressing Judge Whitman, I move for immediate dismissal of all charges against Mrs. Martinez with prejudice. Furthermore, I'll be filing a complaint with the Judicial Conduct Review Board regarding your behavior today. Motion granted, Judge Whitman whispers, her career flashing before her eyes. But Sam isn't finished. He turns to address the entire courtroom, his voice carrying the wisdom of decades. I want everyone here to remember something. Respect isn't about expensive suits or fancy offices. It's about treating every person with dignity, regardless of how they look or where they come from. This medal, he touches his brown star, isn't just a piece of metal. It represents the sacrifice of men and women who died defending the very principles we're supposed to uphold in this courtroom. The courtroom erupts in applause. Mrs. Martinez weeps with relief and gratitude. Even Sergeant Davis nods respectfully, his military bearing showing his appreciation for a fellow veteran's service. Young lawyers in the gallery take out their phones, knowing they've witnessed something they'll tell their children about. The court reporter continues typing, knowing this transcript will become legendary in legal circles. As Sam packs his simple briefcase, he turns back to Judge Whitman one final time. Your Honor, I hope you've learned something today. I hope you'll remember that justice isn't about power or position. It's about seeing the humanity in every person who walks through that door. Judge Whitman can only nod, tears streaming down her face as she realizes the full weight of her actions. Morrison approaches Sam as he prepares to leave. Justice Washington, I want to apologize. I should have spoken up sooner. Sam looks at the young lawyer, really looks at him for the first time. He sees someone who, despite his privilege, showed courage when it mattered. Mr. Morrison, you did speak up. That took courage. Learn from today. Use your position to help people, not hurt them. Judge Whitman's career would never recover from this day. Within 6 months, she would resign in disgrace after a thorough investigation revealed a pattern of bias and misconduct. The investigation, led by the Judicial Conduct Review Board, found 17 other cases where she had shown bias against defendants based on race, appearance, or economic status. 3 of her contempt citations were overturned on appeal. 5 civil rights lawsuits were filed against her personally. The State Bar Association used her case as a training example of judicial misconduct. Morrison's firm, embarrassed by the public spectacle, settled with Mrs. Martinez for $25,000 and established a fund to provide free legal services to elderly tenants facing eviction. Morrison himself became one of the state's most effective tenant rights advocates, his conscience awakened by witnessing real injustice. Mrs. Martinez not only kept her apartment but used her settlement money to establish a small community center where elderly Hispanic residents could get help with legal problems. She named it the Samuel Washington Community Justice Center. But for Sam Washington, it was just another day serving justice. He drove Mrs. Martinez home in his old pickup truck, the brown star catching the afternoon sun through the windshield, a reminder that true heroes don't need to announce themselves, they just need to stand up when it matters most. The story spread through social media, legal blogs, and veteran organizations. Law schools began using it as a case study in judicial ethics. Veterans groups honored Sam at their annual conventions. The Georgetown Law Center established the Samuel Washington Scholarship for veterans attending law school. But perhaps the most important impact was on the hundreds of people who heard the story and remembered its lesson: never judge someone by their appearance. You never know if you're looking at the very person who has the power to change your life forever. 3 months later, Sam was back in court, representing another client who couldn't afford a lawyer. This time, he wore a suit not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The bronze star still gleamed on his lapel, and no one dared question his right to wear it. The new judge, the Honorable Maria Santos, greeted him with the respect he deserved. "Justice Washington, it's an honor to have you in my courtroom." "The honor is mine, Your Honor. I'm here to serve justice, just like you." And that's the real lesson of this story. Justice isn't about power or position. It's about standing up for what's right, regardless of who you are or what you look like. It's about remembering that every person deserves dignity and respect. Sam Washington understood this because he'd lived it. He'd been underestimated, discriminated against, and dismissed. But he'd also risen above it all, not through anger or bitterness, but through excellence, character, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The lesson? Never judge a person by their appearance. You never know if you're looking at the very person who has the power to change your life forever. Respect costs nothing, but its absence can cost everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe has a way of making sure the right person is in the right place at exactly the right time to remind us all what justice really looks like. If you are moved by this story that we should stop judging books by their covers, join the We Are Black family. Subscribe and become part of the conversation that's changing everything. Stories like this happen every day. Subscribe to We Are Black and stay informed about what's really happening in our communities. Remember, justice delayed is justice denied, but justice delivered by the right person at the right time can change everything.